Hello and welcome to the Palmer Performance Workshop. This is part 7 of the Yamaha R1 Track bike build. Now the bike's back from the dyno, so we'll have a little chat with you guys about how that went and some little notes and bits and pieces on that. Obviously it's been running, it's been mapped, so we will give it its first oil and filter change as well. And there's a few odds and ends that we need to do and finish off. Unfortunately, we are still waiting for the bodywork to arrive from the supplier, so we can't get that fitted up in this video. But we'll run you through what we can do and see how far we get. Right, so got a couple of admissions to make. First one, in an earlier video when we fitted the steering damper, obviously the standard one was electronic, and we removed it and said that we could turn the fault off for the steering damper in the ECU. Now that was an oversight on my part. On the pre-2020 bikes, you could do that. You could turn off the fault with the Woolwich flashing software in the ECU. Completely forgot that that's not the case with the 2020 bikes. We can't turn that fault off. So all we had to do was go in the box that came with the Öhlins steering damper and put the Öhlins bypass plug in. If we hadn't have done that, we would have been left with a spanner light on the dash, which then stops you being able to change any of the traction and power mode settings. So plug that back in, we'll tie that up out of the way, all good. So first admission out of the way. Second admission, I'm really sorry guys, but there was a bit of a mix up on scheduling with the dyno and stuff, and I haven't got a video of the bike on the dyno. I know that's like a bit of a big mess up on my part, because I think everybody would have really liked to have seen it. I'll have to try and sort something out at a later date, maybe with another R1 on the dyno, or I'll have a dig through my files and see whether I can find another bike on the dyno and add that in the video. But hands up, my mess up, really sorry about that. But so let's have a little run through of what we've got. So now the bike's been dynoed, we can put the beautiful Aquapovic carbon trim onto the silencer. So that's one job to do. As we showed at the end of one of the other videos, we've got the lithium battery, which will get fitted now. R1s are really terrible at letting their batteries go flat when they're sat up for a while. So we've got one of these in for the customer, which is a Noco Genius 1 battery charger. I love these chargers. I've actually got a couple of them. I've got one exactly the same as this that the Impreza sits on when it's not being used. And then I've got a larger one for charging up batteries in the workshop. This obviously comes with a lead that will connect to the battery, and then it'll have a little plug hanging out the side of the subframe so that he can plug it in when it's sat at home in the garage. Oil and filter. I've used Morris stuff for years, probably ever since I've been in the trade. It's been predominantly the main oil supplier I've used. It's a British company, just mega quality at a reasonable price. And high flow filters, they're probably the most well known of the sort of pattern aftermarket filters, built to OE specs. I think they even actually produce filters for a lot of the OE manufacturers. Courtesy of Race Bolt, we've got a nice drilled and magnetic sump bolt to go in it when we drop the oil, so it's always good. You can keep an eye on any issues there. And then this is just a power supply lead for an AIM lap timer, which the customer is going to have. And we will fit up one of our AIM brackets, which will go in the stem hole and sort of have the lap timer sitting around that area. So yeah, all good. Let's crack on. So we're just fitting the lithium battery. Like I said before, the 2020 onwards bikes are a little bit marginal on cranking capacity on the YTZ7S. They have a standard. So this is a different battery that I tend to fit on these bikes, which has large capacity. But because it's a lithium, it's actually smaller and lighter than the stock battery. Now, the terminals on this battery are a different way around to the standard one, so it means we have to fit the battery in a different way. As you can see, we've used some high density foam to pack out the battery box there, so that can't wobble around. The seat base that we're using will actually also hold the top of the battery to stop it coming out that way. Now, the earth lead, that's a really straightforward one. You literally just pull it back from where it was, and that will just clamp on like that. And then the positive lead, sometimes what you have to do is just pull the relay off its mounting rubber and just sort of pull that wire around a little bit from its normal location, and that gives you the length for it to mount up here, and that will just go straight on the battery like that. And then obviously along with our battery charger wires and the power feed for the AIM lap timer. Let's get this Aquapovic carbon heat shield bolted up. Now, there are a few little special bits and pieces when fitting this. There's two bolts that hold the cover onto the link pipe, and they have some sort of heat protective washers that come with them. So you have to put one washer on the head, then put it through the carbon heat shield, and then put another washer behind it before you then bolt it to the link pipe. And that's to kind of insulate the carbon fibre from the heat of the link pipe. So you can see here I'm just screwing one of those washers onto one of the bolts. I'll do that to both the bolts. And then I'll pop them through the heat shield and then put the washer on the back as well. We'll do that on both of them. And then once they're in, we can loosely bolt it on the link pipe and then get the main bolt and washers with their rubber insert bolted through where the silencer bolts onto the rear set hanger. So that's the rather lovely carbon heat shield fitted up. Really makes a difference on that. Love it. As you can see, the exhaust is blued up beautifully on the dyno. It's got a real nice colour to it. Liking that. We have fitted a full 6 carbon tank extender. I'm sure most of you guys will have seen things like this before. This just goes over the top of the standard tank, and it just gives you this more vertical bit here to help support you under heavy braking and stop you sliding forward and up the standard sort of tank. Kind of does that, so helps stop you sliding up that. So that's all on, and the tank cover and everything's all on. Obviously we already said about the battery. So the one little note with that is, because of how we've moved the positive lead, I just have to trim the rubber boot which goes over the positive terminal, just so it covers the positive terminal on the new battery properly. That's all in and neat. That's the charging plug for the Noco Genius 1 charger. That's all good to go. Right, so let's have a little chat through what we've done on the dyno. So I'll just get the dash to fire up. Now, some of you may or may not know, but basically the R1 has 4 modes: mode A, B, C, and D. And each of those modes is completely customizable to how you want it. So you can change the power mode between 1, 2, 3, and 4, TCS levels, which is obviously traction control, SCS, which is slide control, and then engine braking as well. And then if you go further deeper into the menus, you can then also change one second. You can also change the lift settings and quick shift or launch control, stuff like that. So you can see here, this is where you can completely customize each mode for your own use. But anyway, I mean, that's all detailed in the user manuals for these bikes. There's numerous videos on YouTube about that as well, so we won't worry about it too much. But let's just get back out of this. But basically what we do is remove all the sort of restrictions and speed limiters that the bike has, turn off all the emission stuff. The bikes as standard run really, really lean on part throttle. That's all partly to do with emissions as well. So obviously all the fueling maps, John at Track Electronics changes all them to suit, and then tweaks various other bits. And then what we do with the power modes, basically the power modes are all to do with the throttle response, basically. And on the standard bike, power modes 3 and 4 don't really, you'd never use them on track. They're so soft and so tame, you'd never really use them. But what we do is we leave power 1 as per how Yamaha have it, and we leave power 2 as well. Power 1 is what I'd call quite an aggressive map. It's like Yamaha's map that they did to make the bike feel fast. So you kind of open the throttle and it wants to go, which is great, makes the bike feel amazing. But it can be a bit of a handful on track. Power 2 is a slightly softer version of that. And then what we have is Power 3. We've actually, John at Track Electronics makes his own throttle map, which is kind of a smoothed out version of the Yamaha maps, which quite a lot of people like. And then Power 4 is my own Palmer Performance custom map. And that is, that's been developed with club racing customers of mine, and it has been sort of produced using the years of experience and knowledge I have working with electronic systems in British superbike race categories. And then in amongst that, there's a few other things we do in the ECU that I can't really tell you about, which are kind of specific to the way that we map them, which just makes it easier to ride and more user-friendly, and softer in the way that you pick up the throttle when you're at the apex on full lean and stuff like that. So with those 4 options, it gives the customer plenty of stuff to try when he goes out. We always supply like a little info sheet with the bikes, so he'll have a little rundown of what the different power modes do, and then a suggestion as to when he first rides it, what he should do. We normally say go out and try riding it with the traction and slide control settings quite high, so you get a feel for what their intervention feels like. And then as you start feeling that holding you back, you then reduce the levels until you find a level that you're comfortable with. And that's basically the size of it. So this is our laser wheel alignment kit. Basically it has 2 lasers which go on the rear wheel, and then 2 plates which go on the front wheel with numbers and lines. And basically the aim is to have the red laser line matching the same line and number on both sides. Now, as you can sort of see here, when we move the adjuster, if you look close enough, you'll see as we move the adjuster, the line moves one way or the other. So once we've got them lined up, we're good to go, and we can make a note on the adjusters where that is, and then we'll tweak the chain as necessary to get the adjustment spot on. Right, let's get this oil and filter change done. So the engine's already been warmed up to make sure the oil is nice and runny. We pull the sump plug out. Now the R1, they put the oil filter in this silly place just above the exhaust headers. So I get a plastic bottle and I cut it out, as you can see on the video, which kind of, once you've given the exhaust headers a chance to cool down a bit, you can slot that in underneath where the oil filter sits. And it means when you undo the oil filter, it doesn't dribble oil all over the headers. Obviously, new oil filter, I turn it upside down in the box, pre-fill it with oil. I do this on everything I do oil and filter changes on. It just means that there's less time that the engine is without oil when you start it after doing your oil and filter change. And you can see there sort of how well that works. Let's just see if we can crack off the filter the rest of the way. There we go, look at that. Definitely makes life a whole load easier. Now, rather than use a funnel, what I tend to do is keep hold of these fillers off some of the smaller Morris bowls. It just makes it easier to hold the bottle up and dump it straight in the filler that way. Now, quite a big capacity sort of oil engine really. It will take most of a 4 litre bottle, so it takes a little while to fill it up. That is one other little thing that annoys me about the R1s. They put the filler cap on this side and then the oil level sight glass on the other side of the engine. So you kind of have to put in as much as you think it needs and then go around and check on the other side and then come back again. And obviously one other big note worth mentioning is if you've got the bike on a paddock stand, you really need to put it on a front paddock stand as well, so that the bike's level when you're checking the oil level, because that can have an effect on where it sits. So we'll fill it up to the maximum mark, and then we'll pop the filler cap back in, fire the bike up, make sure the oil pressure light goes out nice and quick, and give it a run for a couple of minutes, then turn it off, let all the oil levels settle down, and then just recheck the level, top up if necessary, lock wire everything, and then job done. Right, oil's in. That's the oil pressure warning there. So that should go off within a couple of seconds of it starting. There we go. And there we go, that's the lock wiring done. The sump bolt, because it's right under here, there's not really anywhere to lock wire it to, so we tend to just run the lock wire up the middle of the headers and lock wire it to the same place as the oil filter, which is just this little spare boss there. And obviously when you've got your fingers in this area, make sure the exhausts have cooled down before you do the lock wiring. We'll just let the oil level settle a bit more and double check that, and she'll be good to go. And that's about it for this episode. Next time should be bodywork fitting, and that'll be about the last thing we do apart from fitting another couple of bits we're waiting on before it goes off for paint, and then it'll be ready to go back to the customer. Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe, catch you guys next time.